The only thing that will solve this crisis is to get the Biden administration to stop releasing migrants into the United States. Now, that actually is going to take cooperation from Mexico, because the only way Trump solved this in 2019 was to threaten tariffs and force Mexico to hold on to the migrants that the United States was releasing back into Mexico. Without Mexico's cooperation, this isn't going to get done, and I don't see out of the Senate negotiation that framework coming out.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with commentary editor Conn Carroll. Conn, you wrote a column this week about DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and you called him, quote, perhaps the most dishonest figure involved in President Joe Biden's border crisis.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, just to take recent examples, he was on bit of a media kick yesterday on MSNBC and CNN. And on MSNBC, he blamed the current spike in the border crossings on climate change, which is just ridiculous. He said President Trump caused the asylum blacklog. That's just not true. It existed long before Trump and has gotten way worse since Biden came into office. But I think, for me, the most dishonest thing he's ever said is that those released into the country, that Biden is releasing to the country on a daily basis, will be immediately placed in deportation hearings, which is true in the sense that he gives them a notice to appear. But that notice to appear just means they're going to appear in court nowadays, 10 years after that they've given that. But that while that technically is being placed in deportation hearings, really you're just letting the illegal immigrants go wherever they want for the next decade.
And now we're having liberal mayors starting to complain about the pressure being put on their infrastructure, saying, without a sense of irony, it seems, that their economies weren't built to deal with this sort of thing. We're talking about Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Could this start to put pressure on Joe Biden when he's hearing not just from border state governors, but some of his allies?
No, absolutely. But I do worry it's the wrong kind of pressure. So, Denver Mayor Johnston was on CNN over the weekend talking about the budget busting that his city's going under with these migrants. But he's not calling for the border to be shut down. He's not calling for an end to the flow. He's asking for money. He's asking for bailouts. And this is what worries me so much about Republicans holding on to the Ukraine funding, is that they're just going to bail out these sanctuary cities. They're just going to bail out the Biden crisis, just shove a bunch of money at the problem, and then keep letting them flood across the border.
Well, that leads nicely to my last question. We left for the holiday break with Senate Republicans still negotiating some type of border deal that would allow the Ukraine funding to move forward. But should Republicans throw that lifeline to Joe Biden so Joe Biden has something to campaign on? I did a bipartisan thing to solve the border crisis. I mean, should they give him that help?
I mean, my bottom line is, look, if it actually solves the crisis, sure. Why
but will
not?
it? Is it shaping up to?
It does not look like it. It does not look like it. So the data point I go off on is Mayorkas and Blinken went down actually to Mexico City to talk to Mexico President Obrador over that break in between Christmas and New Year's. Well, who gets business done then? I guess the Biden administration does. But the joint statement coming out of that was not encouraging.
Right.
It talked about relief for DACA patients or DACA recipients. It talked about root causes. It talked about economic development for Cuba and Venezuela. None of these things are going to do anything to actually solve the crisis. The only thing that will solve this crisis is to get the Biden administration to stop releasing migrants into the United States. Now, that actually is going to take cooperation from Mexico, because the only way Trump solved this in 2019 was to threaten tariffs and force Mexico to hold on to the migrants that the United States was releasing back into Mexico. Without Mexico's cooperation, this isn't going to get done, and I don't see out of the Senate negotiation that framework coming out.
Well, Conn, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely.
You can get more writing from Conn and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.